Here we go. All right, guys, welcome to Technical Tuesday today. We are going to talk about 30 demos, why it's important, and most importantly, what everybody really wants to hear, how do we get more demos, okay? So just to start off with why it's important, there's a couple reasons. First off, if you're new at this business and you don't have a ton of experience doing what we do, our research and our metrics have shown that if you do 6 demos a day, you're going to close 1 out of 6 on average. So you're probably still going to get your 5 families a week. You're probably still going to, do a really great job here, even if you don't totally know what you're doing yet. So if you want to ensure that you're making the money that you want to make, protecting the families and helping the people you want to help, make sure you're doing 6 demos a day, at least. That gets you 30 a week. Also, for some of your bonuses, you guys, so if you're in your first 4 weeks, there's your MVP bonus. And for that, you need to work 45 hours and do 30 demos. That will get you your MVP bonus. And that gets you an additional 10% advance. So you definitely want to hit that if you're in your first 4 weeks. And then you can also get that if you're outside of your first 4 weeks. If you do 30 demos in a week or more, you're still going to get an 80% advance. So that's an additional 10% cash flow from doing the same amount of, sales essentially. But you're able to kind of increase your cash flow just by doing a couple more demos. One other thing I wanted to talk about before I get into how to get more demos is just to kind of remind you guys of every quarter we set our goals, right? So we have that little worksheet that's called the CFI, the VPF, the roadmap basically, and I'll show you what that looks like if you haven't seen that yet. So it looks something like this. This is you guys, if you haven't seen this, you definitely will see this coming up here in a week or two when we're doing our Q2 goals. But basically, it's a little worksheet where you can put in your current stats, basically your metrics, and find out exactly how much activity you need to put in order to hit your income goals, hit your sales goals, whatever goals you have. So I was working on this with an agent yesterday, and he is at a 35% contract, 0.09 renewal. That just means, the typical 1%. His average transaction is pretty solid, 1,100. His closing percentage right at 16%, right at 1 out of 6. Hours per demo is 1.5. Now, he said, well, let's say I wanted to cash flow $1,200. Next week on the train more, he wants to have $1,200 in his pocket by the end of the week. In order for him to do that, he would have to sell right out of green out, for a little more than a green out, 5714. For him, that's going to be 5 or 6 families protected. He's going to need to do 32 demos, and it's going to take him about 49 hours to do that. And that was kind of eye-opening for him because he was like, I'm not doing that many hours or that many demos. So it makes sense why I'm not cash flowing 1,200 a week. And then it kind of puts it into perspective for you. And then this tool is really helpful because it lets you say to yourself, am I willing to put in the work that it's going to take to get me where I want to go? And guys, one of probably the easiest ways to increase your cash flow without doing more work or working crazy hours is to just get your hour to demo ratio up. If you're already out there working 40 hours, 45 hours, 50 hours, like a normal work week, like most of us, and you're getting fewer than 30 demos in a week, you probably feel a little frustrated, like you're wasting time, you're sitting in your car too much, or there's something that's just not right. And so if you're able to kind of get that hour to demo ratio down to like an hour and a half per demo, that would be six demos in an 8-hour day, then you're going to feel like your day's going by a lot faster. You're talking to more people, you're getting a lot more done, and you're not having to work crazy hours necessarily. Okay. So we're going to talk about how do we do that, right? I'm not saying, you need to go work 70-hour weeks or anything, because that's not what we're here for. But how can we take our 40 hours or 50 hours that we already planned to spend talking to families anyway, and just make it a little bit more effective, right? So The first thing that you can do is, use your approaches word for word. Okay, that sounds probably really obvious, but our approaches are the way they are for a reason. That's not random. That's not up to chance. It's really important for us to use our approaches exactly as they're written. Using other names. Hey, breaking the ice. Are you from here originally? How long have you worked here? Is this your place? Just little basic things, breaking the ice before we just jump right into, hey, I'm selling something. Just being a human being, using our approach exactly how it's written will work. I use the approach exactly word for word. I know Kyle uses it word for word, CJ, Brandy, all the super successful agents here are just doing the same approaches you guys learned in sales school. So it works, I promise. We just have to actually use it as it's written and not just like something that's kind of close to it. If you do need to go on to the second and third approach, use as many names as they will let you. Typically in our first approach, we might use like 3 names or 4 names or something. Hey, I was just talking to this person at this place and I was on my way over to this person. And we also work with these 2 businesses or these 3 businesses. But if they're kind of giving you some pushback, they're being a little skeptical, try and use more names. And if you're not great at memorizing names, that is totally fine. Because if you can see here, if you can see my screen on our sales app, all you got to do is press this little umbrella and boom, there you go. There's my turf. There's a whole bunch of names and a whole bunch of businesses that we work with. So I could say, hey, you probably know some of our clients. You probably know folks over at Pinkerton Chevy, Jiffy Lube, Ditch Witch, Vistar, Lowe's Home Improvement, Roanoke County Schools, Mid-Atlantic, Pete's RV, the Roanoker Magazine, Richfield Living, Fit Learning, just like there's all your names right there. You don't have to sit there racking your brain thinking, oh crap, what names do I use, right? It's right there for you. Pull out your iPad, let it help you. Use as many names as they will let you. And you want to kind of bring these names to life, let people know, these people. These aren't just names on a list that you've never met. These are your clients. They're basically your friends, right? So there's really a couple ways you could do this. You can either use the names list that you can see right here on the umbrella page on your mobile sales app. I would recommend this for folks who are really new and probably don't have a ton of selfies yet. And that's totally fine. That's exactly what this is here for. However, if you're like me and you've been here a little bit longer, you can also go to your selfies in your iPad, in your photo app, and say, hey, you probably know a bunch of our clients. People love seeing pictures of their friends. Their faces light up like, oh, cool, like you're legit. You're talking to people I know. And you could just say, oh, hey, you probably know Tim over there at Beacon Partners, and Alicia Ice. She's the one who's always driving around in that bright pink car. I know you've seen her car driving around. And this is Kim. She cleans houses. And this is Tanya. She owns a gym. And, she has 4 kids, and they're usually hanging out when she's working out. And she's just an awesome lady. And just every couple names, just say something to bring it to life. If if they're your client, you probably know a thing or two about them. Bring those names to life. And then the number 2 thing you can do is make a power names card, kind of like a little cheat sheet for yourself, for when you walk into a business and you're not quite sure who you're going to run into, what names you're going to use, something like that. And you can think about it ahead of time, break it up into categories. It can be power names of people that you've sold a policy to, people you've demoed, or just people you've met, if that's as far as you've gotten already. And when I say break it up into categories, I mean, an older person, a single parent, a young person, a local credible name. So an example using just my selfies here, if I walk into a business and the owner is looking, a little bit older, maybe they've got some gray hair, they've got, somebody's needs muted. Let's see here. All right, thank you. Perfect. All righty, cool. So yeah, let's say I go in, I do my approach, and the business owner is looking a little older. I'm like, sweet, I know exactly what names I'm gonna use. Hey, you probably know James Jordan. He's been practicing law in Salem for longer than I've been alive. So you definitely know him. He's super nice. Oh my gosh. And you probably know Bev. I feel like he's everybody's postman around here. He's 74 years old and he told me he walks 10 miles a day. I guess that's what's keeping him young, right? Or you probably know Steve Pillis. He owns the car inspection shop right down the street. And guys, I'm thinking, okay, so they're about, maybe 60 years old or so. Who might they know who's been around for a while, who's around their same age group? Or if it's like a young person, a young single parent, I'll try and remember which of my clients are single parents or just around that same age group. If I'm talking to someone and they mention they have a 3-year-old, okay, cool. Well, who do I know who's also got a 3-year-old or has a couple kids or goes to that same school? And you can just write those names down on your card. So you don't have to remember it every time. You just have that with you. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm talking to a married person. I'm talking to a young person. These are some good names to use. Some credibility names. If you have like a sheriff or a business owner or a teacher. So for me, some names that I use that everybody seems to recognize. So Sheriff Hash in Roanoke City, everyone knows him. Or I've got a couple business owners, like some of the ones I just mentioned that everybody seems to know. Down in South Boston, and this is Mike Hardy in Halifax County. He's been with the EMS for 45 years. When I did my train more in South Boston, Virginia, everybody knew Mike Hardy. That helped me, gain a lot of trust and credibility. So things like that, guys. And this takes 5 minutes. Just go through your selfies, go through your names list, or as you meet these people, write them down on a note card and just kind of keep that with you. And, when you walk into a place, just be ready to mention those names. And it takes the guesswork out of it. I feel like where a lot of people run into trouble with, with using names is like, well, what names do I use? And then we're kind of just overthinking it. We're taking a little bit too much time to, think about what names to use. And, it just makes it tough. So to do that, make a little note card. The number 3 thing that you could do is put the number of demos that is your goal on your dashboard on a little note card or on your daily blue goal card, and just kind of cross them off every time you do a demo. So it goes from 6 down to 5, down to 4, 3. That'll help you focus on just getting the next demo instead of just like, oh, I have all day to get 6 demos or whatever. And use the goal periods too. If you've gone through a goal period and you haven't gotten a demo, then that should kind of light a fire under you like, oh man, I got to go find somebody. I'm going to go talk to the next person I see, the next business I see, and just get excited to go get that demo for that goal period. The number 4 thing you should be doing is be careful with your time. Don't spend the same amount of time with everyone. Okay. Some people are just not with it. They're not really feeling the day or something. You're just kind of grumpy. They don't need the same in-depth demo as someone who's asking you a bunch of really good questions or someone who's super interested, has a great story. Still try and get a demo out of it. You don't have to just cut it short and run away, but you can be quicker with some people, and that's totally fine. If they are just not with you at all, something you can say is if they're like checking their phone or they're just, totally ignoring you, pretty much typing on their computer, you could say, hey, are you with me? And then they'll be like, huh, okay, yeah. And then sometimes they'll be like, yeah, sometimes they'll be like, no, not really. And then you're just like, should I go see the next person? And that's okay. If you're not sure if they're with you or not, and you're like, man, is this a good demo or am I wasting my time right now? You could say, hey, let me ask you a quick question. So Bill, is there a chance that you or someone in your family might deal with some of this stuff? I mean, we hope and pray it doesn't happen. We do our best that none of this is going to happen, but is it possible? Yeah. Okay. And if that were to happen, might that put a little bit of financial stress and strain on your family? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Well, it sounds like there's a need for something, and I don't know for sure if what I do is going to be the right fit for you and your family. It's definitely been the right fit for all these other families right here. But if I could show you something that would pay you cash directly if you're going through this stuff we're talking about that so many of your relatives have been through, and it gives you your money back if you don't have to use it. Is that something you'd be open-minded to taking a quick peek at and just nodding your head the whole time? And oftentimes they'll be like, yeah, sure, you can show me, and then keep going with your demo. And if they're just like, no, not interested in that, then just like, sweet, I'm gonna cross you off my list and go talk to someone who is gonna actually pay attention. And if you're at the buying atmosphere and someone's just kind of not feeling it, and you're like, I can tell they're not gonna buy, you can still make it a demo really quick. Just say, you know, take 2 minutes or less, be like, hey, let me just show you 1 or 2 benefits in the price so you at least know what you're saying no to. And then if you already spent all this time doing your best to build the need and they're just not with it, you may as well give yourself credit for a demo by just showing a couple benefits and saying, hey, and you can actually get this for as low as, and just show them a price and see if that changes their mind at all. If not, no worries, you can still count that as a demo. I'm not saying every demo should be like that. That's kind of a last resort. If you're like coming up against a goal period and you know, you really need to get a demo and then the person you talk to is just not really into it, that can happen sometimes. But obviously we're trying to make most of our demos really solid and, you know, doing them the right way by the book. The number 5 thing you guys can do is ask for referrals. So every demo at the end, even if they buy or if they don't buy, make sure you're asking for referrals. There's a lot of great tips and cues in the actual sales presentation for how to ask. A good tip is don't use the word referrals. People get really weird with that for some reason. So you could just say, hey, so who can you introduce me to who's just a nice person like you in town who I can make sure gets to hear about this? If they can't think of anybody, you could say, well, where do your siblings work? Where do your parents work? Where does your spouse work? Who are your competitors? If you're in a plumbing company, for example, what other plumbing companies do you know? If you're really prepared, you can go ahead and type out or write down a list of businesses that you're hoping to get referred into and just show them the list. It's like fill in the blank. It's like a fun game. And they're like, sweet, let me show you how much I know. And they'll give you some names there. And that really helps when you do your approach because you know who you're asking for. You have kind of like a reference, like, hey, I was just talking to your friend, blah, blah, blah. And then they actually know some of the names you're using. And that's a big step into getting them to trust you and give you that sit down. And then the number 6 thing you can do is get them to laugh in the approach. So somebody said, be funny, make money. Someone else said, it's really hard to say no to a smiling idiot. And guys, sometimes when we're new, we may not have all the answers. Sometimes when we've been here for a couple of years, we still don't have all the answers. Don't forget to smile when you walk into a business. I don't care if you're shaking in your boots and you're super nervous, you need to smile. That's just what humans do to signal to other humans that we are not a threat, okay? So don't forget to smile, crack a joke, do whatever you got to do, and keep it in tune with your personality. Some people have crazy one-liners and whatever they like to do. I'll say something like, hey, good morning, happy Tuesday, glad Monday's over, how's your week going so far? Just get them to smile, you know, working hard, hardly working, like whatever works for you guys and your personality. But don't, if you can help it, don't move into, hey, I'm Maria with Family Heritage until they've at least, you know, smiled or, you know, let their guard down a little bit, because we do want to get them to like us and trust us. That is going to help us get more demos. And then let's see, the number 7 thing we can do is in the intro, if somebody's, you know, or if we're not really quite sure if this is something that's a good fit for them, you could say something like, hey, if you know, if they're like, I've got Aflac, they're giving me all these objections still, you could say, if I could show you a policy that was completely different from what you already have, didn't cost an arm and a leg, and it just took 5 more minutes to explain, is that something you might purchase today? And just, you know, see what they say. If they're like, oh yeah, I'd look at that, cool. If not, that's okay too. And then really the last thing that I would recommend, guys, is whatever you put down in your Q1 goals that we looked at a minute ago, or what you put in your weekly game plan that you do every week, actually follow that. I know that might sound silly and you're probably all like, I follow that obviously, but if you put down, at the beginning of the quarter that you want to cash flow $1,200 this week, and that's going to mean you have to work 49 hours and do 32 demos, then when you do your game plan this week, it should also say, I'm planning on working 49 hours and doing 32 demos. And then you have to go out and actually do it, right? So these tools are awesome if we actually use them. And I think probably most of us are going to be working on our Q2 goals coming up here. I know my team is going to all get together on Saturday. We're doing ours for a couple hours together just before the train more starts, get those out of the way. But if you have any questions about how to do that or that tool that I showed you guys, ask your trainer for sure. I'm sure they will help you with that. But hopefully that was helpful, guys. Some tips on how to get more demos. I think we all kind of know why it's important, why we recommend that. But hopefully one or two of those tips resonates with you guys to go get more demos today. I probably have time for a couple questions if anybody has any.
Just solid content, Maria. I've seen you out in the field. You follow through, consistent. You treat this when you say you're going to be there, do your stuff. I mean, it's bam, bam, bam. I've seen you do it. Just pace is fast. This is fire content. Anybody on here, I got tons of notes. I just want to say thanks for your time. It was solid.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
You had mentioned Mike Hardy. Who did you say who he is in South Boston?
He was he's like the captain of EMS. Is that going to be your turf, Rob?
It is.
Awesome. Send me, get with Jason Miller. He'll send you my number. I can send you I did a train more there. I was only there for a week, but I did get a couple families protected. I can go ahead and send you over those selfies and you can go back and reservice that town because they haven't seen me since then. So that would probably be really smart. So we'll connect on that, but thank you for letting me know.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
Maria, I just have a comment. First of all, thank you very much. And two, guys, where Maria is talking about filling out your weekly game plan, or not your weekly game plan, but your Q1, Q2 goals, that is something that I religiously do every Monday when the numbers come out. I was way behind and I dare you. Right now, I'm $4,000 short of it, but I can tell you exactly what I have sold for the quarter, where I'm down in my demos and hours, and I can tell you the same with my team. If you don't track it, you don't know where you're going, okay? The next thing on that is, those of you who have been here longer than a year, okay, pull your metrics up, look at what you sold this day last year, compete with yourself. Even if it's a 10% increase, that's huge. The other thing with that is what I do is I look at what I did the week prior. Then I go to my handy dandy little calendar and I look and I say, what business was I working with this time last year? Because you can't remember everything. Oh, guess what? Now I need to reservice them. And then that's guaranteed sit downs and demos. If you have any questions on that, I would be more than willing to help. But I mean, that's how I had my best quarter a couple quarters ago. And I'm going to hit my goals for this quarter of 66,000. So thank you.
That's a great tip, Brandy. Going back to your calendar from last year and seeing who was I working with. It's probably time for reservice. That's really smart. I'm definitely going to be implementing that as well. All right, guys, one more comment, question, anything? Everybody good? 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's go. It's Tuesday. It's going to be a great day. Go out there and protect some families, do some demos, make some people laugh, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Thank you.